regular meeting. So we'll start out with Pledge of Allegiance. Rich, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the fastest I've ever heard.
Boy, he whipped that baby right out.
Woo, give you more time to get work done.
Oh, thanks. Roll call, please.
Larson,
Here.
Fratelli,
Thank you.
Fratelli,
Present.
Gift.
Lyman,
Here.
Ennis,
Gift.
Westwood,
Here.
Whistler. Here.
I do want to announce that we'll have no chat tonight on the GoToMeeting. That was just getting used a little too much for side chats. All of you out there, you know, you're more than welcome to dial into the phone or get onto the GoToMeeting and join us in this. We have, we're going to start out with council to consider postponed resolution 3568. I want to give a little background of what I've been working on. I've talked with Dan Clark extensively, explained to him about the postponement and also the other resolution that was tabled. And when you're voting on a postponement or a table, you're not voting on the resolution or ordinance, so therefore it does not come under needing the 4 votes to, as it's stated in our charter. So we had a 3-2 vote to postpone and a 3-2 vote to table, and those are legal, and just want to let everybody know that. So let's get some comments on the considered postponement on the resolution. Does anybody want to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay, Pete.
I believe that the pool committee has provided us, the city, clearly and specifically everything that we needed to prepare this document. And I also believe that everyone here in the city understood the elements required to communicate in writing the goals of this resolution. I am completely confident in the good faith between both parties. And while I believe we, the city, could have done a better job in clarity throughout the document, the inertia and forward motion of the pool exceeds my concerns, so I intend to support it as presented or modified.
Okay, thank you. Dave, you were the one that brought up the postponement. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, my concern was, and maybe part of it was just publicly acknowledging what was my perception at the time that we may have goofed, and to add my 2 cents that had we passed something that really hadn't passed, I would absolutely say that we should go back and revisit that. My concern that I had with this tonight is that when we did the postponement, when you do a postponement, you are required to do a date certain, and we had set that as the first meeting in April. I was thinking in terms that that motion would probably was not official because it would require 4 votes, which means we would be cleared to vote on that tonight. Because had we proceeded through and not goofed, if we goofed, the action would have basically died. And what we were trying to do was make it very clear to those supporters that it had our support. In fact, you'll recall that my recommendation and suggestion at the time was that we take the time to sit down and hammer it out so that we could have it fixed and not have any delay. So in my mind, I'm comfortable moving forward with the resolution. I just want to acknowledge that I'm doing so a little bit with relying on a technicality that the motion to table it really wasn't legit. Like both of the votes that were 3-2 were basically actions not to move things forward. And so I just think it's appropriate that we have an open conversation and we're comfortable doing that, because I do think we should have approved this last week. We should have taken the time to make the changes. I'm happy with the changes that have been made. They address the very specific concerns we had, primarily authorize as opposed to supporting. And I appreciated the addition of some of the whereas that clarified that the money for this engineering study for the plan and design phase had actually been collected. And so what we're doing is just authorizing the spending of that money accordingly. So I said, from a procedural standpoint, I just wanted to make sure we were above board and that we were good to go. What I collected from your statements is that in your talking with Dan, he indicated that he felt we were okay moving forward with this action tonight, and I am comfortable with that as well. Because I think that would have been I don't think either of those votes changed by virtue of the outcome vote. Otherwise, they would have just failed for lack of having 4 affirmative votes. So I think we ended up the same spot, but I think we need to acknowledge we goofed, and we'll try and do better in the future.
We would probably need a motion to remove the postponement date.
I move to remove the date certain of the first meeting in April of the pool resolution number 3568.
Second.
Discussion.
I am happy with that action. Thank you for that recommendation, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Council discussion? Any discussion on pulling the postponement on 3568 from the public? Comments from the public?
I just appreciate the effort of the council and the mayor and getting us to this point, and I look forward for you passing the resolution. Al Bloomer, 302 Kainu, chairman of the pool committee.
Any other comments from the public? Let's go ahead and get a roll call vote on this.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes. Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
Thank you. Let's move on down to resolution 3568. This is a resolution
Yeah.
to support the engineering of phase 2 of the city pool. This is up for action.
I move to approve resolution number 3568, a resolution of the City Council of Red Lodge, Montana, authorizing engineering of phase 2 for the Red Lodge City Pool.
Second.
Discussion. Discussion from council.
It's just time we move on.
I agree.
The committee has done yeoman's work on this, and we need to support their efforts by moving forward with this resolution as quickly as possible.
I do want to add that the chairman of the pool committee sends us out a financial on pledges and cash and what they've done. They've done a fantastic job of getting commitments from people. What the city's done on our side is we have approached the local banks, 2 of the local banks for the bonds. We have received correspondence from the Bank of Red Lodge on their bonds for 20-year loan at 3%, covering $1,900,000. Our annual payment would be approximately $63,500. That would come out of resort tax. Fill you in on that. Any other discussion? Discussion from the public. Oh, Dave.
Mayor, yes, the only other thing that I wanted to address is that we had made a comment, it was originally set up that we were going to try not to do actions at work meetings unless they were an emergency. And this one I do believe is an emergency. I believe it is an emergency of our own creation, meaning we did try to go forward and we just needed to back off and spend some time doing paperwork. So I just wanted to check that box that I am comfortable taking that action at a work meeting as well for those reasons.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments from council? Council from the public?
Mr. Mayor and Chairman of the council, again, I appreciate your efforts in this, and I look forward to passing it. And since I sent you the last report, we picked up another $2,200. So we're standing now at $891,911 in cash and pledges. And there's a certain excitement in the community, and I'm happy that you're ready to move forward with this on phase 2, or the first stage of phase 2.
Thank you, Al.
Wonderful.
Any more comment from the public? Comment from the public? Roll call.
Curtelli,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Mahan,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
5 yeses for the record.
Al Bloomer, we appreciate you and your committee. You have done an incredible job. Thank you, thank you.
Well, it's a great committee, and they're dedicated to getting this done, and it's been a team effort, I'll tell you that.
Well, you do have a great committee, and I've got all your names listed in my phone.
All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
We have another action item here, Resolution 3569, authorizing the submission of the Big Sky Trust Fund application, and this is time sensitive, that's why it's up for action tonight. Lonnie, you want to help us with this?
I think Courtney's on.
Courtney, are you on?
She's the one that.
Yeah.
I see her on there. There she is.
You want to just give us a quick overview, Courtney? I believe you're muted.
Can't hear you.
Hang on a second. Okay, Courtney, you're on. Oh, you're muted again.
There you go.
Okay, we're
Sorry,
ready.
I'm trying to use my phone.
Go ahead.
Try it again. Keep trying.
Now I can't hear you.
No, we can't hear you. James, can you fill us in on it a little bit? Just a quick overview.
I probably know about as much as you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
But it'd be for an energy grade audit of city facilities that its goal is to determine where energy is kind of being wasted and where we could make improvements on our energy consumption that would pay for themselves. I think the general goal on things like that is 15 years. You're looking for 15-year paybacks on energy savings. So the audit would be looking for those kinds of savings.
And I think the crunch on this, I think it has to be in by the end of this month.
Right.
Is that right, Courtney? Shake your head. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the grant was actually already due, but they said we could get the resolution done after the fact.
Right. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 3569, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Red Lodge to authorize the submission of a BSTF application, and that should be spelled out as Big Sky Economic Development Fund, Trust Fund.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tom. Discussion, council, Teresa.
Yeah, I just wondered about the discrepancy between the 7,500 matching grant and the 8,250 matching fund. Was there's the next sheet in this was talking about 7,500 as the match, not 8,250. So I was just wondering about that discrepancy. You're gonna see that.
Do you remember?
I'm not sure on the answer to that.
I do remember her talking about the 8250, and I don't know if it's more of a, it's staff term, so it's not a full 50-50 then, as far as the match.
Yeah, because I think I saw another document that said matching fund was 7,500, so now I'm wondering what is it? Is it really 8250 or is it 7,500? And if it's not the same, why not?
Courtney said it's for staff time. She just typed it in the chat. So it's for staff time, the extra.
The 1,250 of in-kind match, right?
Is that, yeah, the 7,500 is for grant match, the extra is for staff time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
Only that when we have a title of the resolution, it should be spelled out, it shouldn't just be initials. And I know Courtney, yeah, didn't know that, so we need to spell out, when it's a title, spell it out completely. Don't use initials, because the general public isn't gonna know what that means.
Any other comments? Yes, Dave?
Where is the, and I guess it's not 8250, it's just the 7,500, but where is the 7,500 coming from out of the current budget?
Resort tax. So in there, we had budgeted 10,000 for the solar panels, but that was part of this energy audit type thing. So to get these matching grants, we'll just use that, and then when they do the audit and throw the solar panels into that project as well, it kind of is a wash. So that's where the matching funds will be.
Thank you. The second question I had kind of had to do with the timing. I understand that this is time sensitive. I guess my question is why, and it seems like I recall conversations of this previously, but it seems to me like this really should have been an action item on the last meeting, and we shouldn't, bad planning doesn't equal an emergency. And I'm just trying to figure out how it is we go ahead and pass this, but at the same time send the message that we really do want things to make it to us with enough time to consider and properly evaluate.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, Dave, and I agree with that. The grant was worked on by a volunteer that is on the sustainability board, and they did not see, I guess, in the fine print that a resolution of support was needed by the city council. So Courtney ended up doing a lot of work on this last week, doing the finishing touches on the grant. It was started by the sustainability board, and there was just somebody did not notice that we needed city council action on this.
Okay, and then the last question is maybe for Alderman Whistler. I think this is one of those realms that you deal with regularly. In your mind or your understanding, is this an emergency thing, or is this something that we would be doing next year rather than this year, or what are your thoughts and recommendation?
I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, Dave. I really just wanted to question, and I think Courtney can probably answer. My understanding is that this is a re-up of the same audit that provided the baseline for the creation of our ECP, our Energy Conservation Plan. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just didn't realize we were up on that 5-year mark already. And if we are, I wondered if Courtney could answer how long do we expect this to take? And does this give us enough time? Is the timing right for that 5-year mark that we were anticipating when the ECP was written up?
Is our emergency happening a year early? And we're not late, we're really 11 months early.
That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
We had to put in for the grant was our emergency to get that grant.
Right.
She said, no, this is for the EPC. We need to start now for the IGA, which is the investment grade audit.
So they are starting now for that 5th-year cycle. Okay. So yeah, I understand. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments from council? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Roll call.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Mahan,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to some discussion areas here now. So we're gonna talk about resolution 3567. This is a resolution of intent for water and sewer rates. Teresa, you wanna give us just a quick overview?
Sure. Deep breath.
Deep breath.
This is I know I went through the longer version of the explanation last time, but just to start with, the comments that Jamie made were completely valid, and I did address that in the revision of the resolution of intent here. We were discussing using the word adjust rather than increase because it can indeed decrease depending on the inflation rate used by the state as our modifier. So that change was made throughout, and the only reference where it remains as increase is when it's something that's discussing the state and their methods for the price index, consumer price index. So the resolution of intent here is to bring us to a position where we can amend the methods for adjustments on our water and sewer rates by resolution that had been determined, or I guess it had been determined that we would adjust those rates by resolution every 5 years. That has not been done the previous year, so we need to put something in effect. And rather than creating another 5-year table of fees and charges, we've opted to propose, I guess the intent here is that we would increase our water and sewer rates each year using the inflation rate as published by the state of Montana using their consumer price. Long and short of it.
Very well done, too, Teresa. Discussion, council.
I think
Pete.
this makes complete sense to keep a balance on our books and I'm glad for the adjustment. We can hope that it might go down, but this has been way overdue, and to all those who put the time in, it will certainly serve our citizens well and our budget too.
Lori?
I was sitting at this table when we refused, not me, but the rest of the council refused to raise the rates. We got ourselves into serious trouble, and when we finally raised the rates, it was a huge hit to the general public. We need to make absolutely certain that that does not happen again. A small increase on a regular basis is the way to go.
Dave?
Yes, I agree that we need to keep this going. I will add that I have been approached by some members of the community who are not happy with it, and I think part of it was not understanding that. I think they were comparing the rates to deliver water and these services to different cities where they've been in the past or where they may have had friends. And I think that one of the ways to fix that is going to be just to clean up our wording a little bit. I'd like to get this through. I appreciate Teresa. She's done a fantastic job, and I understand she's collected a lot of things. But there's some paragraphs that I think were written by a freshman law student who is getting paid by the word, and we need to reduce the level of words. And I don't think that reflects on anybody here. I think this is something that was in place long before anybody present. But just like as an example of just the second to the last whereas, it says current budgetary requirements with respect to the operation of said facilities, in addition to ongoing and future projects, require the city to update and maintain a current water and sewer fee that enables the city to proceed as expeditiously as possible to accomplish the objectives herein above recited, of which there aren't any. And I think in talking with Teresa, that basically what it needs to say is this needs to be put in place as soon as possible to ensure continued grant eligibility. And I think that's much simpler and much cleaner language. And I'm happy to work with Teresa, but I don't know if we can get this more simplified, a little less legalese. I think it's going to help us when we present this to the public, because they'll be able to understand what it is we're trying to accomplish.
I'll leave that up to you and Teresa to work that wording out. Like I say, you've done a fantastic job, and if we just clean it up a little bit, I'm good with that.
I agree.
Glory.
And I already said, Councilman Westwood, that I was here when we failed to raise the rates prior, and it got us into serious trouble. I guess you didn't hear me say that. So I was here, and we should have raised them then, and we need to do it now. And the increase is minuscule by comparison to what we had to do when we failed to raise them for years.
Right. And I think this wording is actually borrowed from when we did the big jump 5 years ago. And so we just need to make it match this. And I was just making sure that nobody was taking offense when I was commenting on the wording that was used, because that was not the intent. I just think we can do better by our citizens.
Any more council comments? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? I say we carry it forward to our meeting April 13th, then we'll get this up for action.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you, Teresa. We'll discuss resolution 3570, authorization to interview any energy service providers for investment grade audit. Discussion. Courtney, I'll let you kind of lead us into this.
Okay, can you hear me now? I tried to call in earlier, but that didn't work. So, so yeah, thank you guys so much, City Council, for just taking the time to look at this and for your patience with me as a new staff person as I get familiar with the process and kind of catch up on what's been done, especially with the energy performance contract process itself. Robin and the Sustainability Board had done a lot before me. So I didn't realize that I needed this resolution to move forward. And once I realized that, I wanted to bring it forward for discussion to be able to move forward with selecting an energy service provider. And that energy service provider will be the company that will move us forward in the investment grade audit, which is what that grant was to help pay for that and reduce our overall payback period. And then, you know, from our investment grade audit, we can decide to move forward with an energy performance contract, and we can explore that at a later date when that becomes more imminent.
Okay, thank you. Discussion with council.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, when the inventory would be targeted to begin, or is there a target date? And then again, that 75 the dirt tax account, I guess it's okay is what we're saying if it doesn't match, if it's implied that the difference between that and the 8250 are staff, right?
Right.
Other than that, I'm really just curious about it. Just the date that this would get started, provided we are given the grant, awarded the grant.
Yeah, so we still want to be on track for the 2022 so that we can have 2021 as our 5-year goal in the energy conservation plan. And so we want to get ahead, you know, partly because that grant was due in March of this year, and that funding may not be available next year. They don't know if they're going to renew that funding. So we want to make sure that we are exploring those funding options, but the investment grade audit would be for the 2021 year. And so, and I don't have my timeline on me, but our timeline is our next step would be to interview one of or both of those energy service providers that sent in RFPs last summer, and then from there have the city council select based on our recommendation, on the interview committee's recommendation. And so just understanding that you know, can take a few months to get that going, and then from there we can enter into a contract for our investment grade audit and put limitations on how much it'll cost and how, you know, how deep they go with that audit. So did that answer your question, Teresa?
Oh, yeah, I was just also interested in knowing the students interview committee, is the sustainability board going to be involved in that?
Yes, so the interview committee was established by Robin and Neil last July and August, I believe. And so it includes sustainability board members, it includes some city staff, and even included, I think, a couple of Ron Pecorino from DEQ, and then a couple of other, like, for, you know, Jody from the library. So it had quite a range of people on that committee.
Tom?
Courtney, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Just a couple questions. One, once the provider has been chosen and agrees, how long do you expect that to take? I don't know, approximately. And also, does the cat screen better?
He'll be answering the
I'm
questions.
not a cat,
from
Your
now on.
Honor.
Will it involve any disruption to service in that city?
Are you asking will the audit involve any disruptions?
Right.
I don't believe so. So a lot of times they'll look at, you know, energy bills from the year. And Teresa might be able to, you know, because I think she was involved maybe in the last audit, so she knows more about what is actually involved in those. But they essentially just they'll come and look at, you know, the municipal facilities and our energy usage and consumption, and then identify areas. So nothing will actually, like, no construction or anything will be happening. It's more of just a look at where we are as a city and where we can improve. But I don't expect any disruptions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more council comments? Dave?
Yes, I have a comment. I would actually like to see Courtney, and I'll defer to council, but I'll raise the issue. I would like to see the final whereas, not only mention the 7,500 from resort tax, but I would like to see it, and I believe the math is 750 in-kind services. I'd like to see that reflected in there just so that it aligns up with that. The next question I have is the therefores. The first one is with number one, and I maybe direct this toward James. What this currently says is the city supports moving forward with interviewing energy service providers. Does that meet our need, or is this something that we feel actually requires the council authorizing to move forward, and we don't end up revisiting this because we chose the wrong word again? So are we support or authorizing it?
Well, the word authorizing has been very popular lately, Dave. So I would say maybe that is a good switch.
Okay, so I just raised that. The next question I have, and I'll look to Courtney. So again, when we authorize to move forward with the pool bid, there is a legal obligation created that if that comes in within a certain, you know, variance of what we anticipated, we're basically need to move forward with that. Otherwise, we face the potential of having somebody come back and say, you were not asking us to put forth our effort in good effort because we gave you a bid, it was within the range and you didn't do with it. So I noticed that number two, I understand the earlier conversation and we were looking at an audit, and I understand that, but I have some concerns or questions maybe about number two that says the city agrees to select an energy service provider based on the recommendations. So what exactly is an energy service provider going to do for us, and what sort of dollars are we talking about committing to? Because even though this is just an audit that we're moving forward, I get the feeling that we're making a much bigger commitment by moving forward with that request for, with that RFP or that request for bid. Can you address that?
Yeah, so the energy service provider. So last summer, we did an RFP for an energy performance contract, and Ameresco and McKinstry were the two companies, energy service providers, that sent in essentially applications to perform our energy performance contract. And so the first step of an energy performance contract is an investment grade audit that the energy service provider manages. So the $1,500 or the $15,000 that we want to put towards the investment grade audit is to pay the energy service provider to perform that investment grade audit. And
so
then,
is that $15,000 the only commitment we're making, or are we making a greater commitment in that? Is that all the energy service provider is going to do, is do the audit?
Yep. So we go into a contract for the audit, and we will have DEQ review that contract to make sure that, we're covering ourselves. And, if we can spend less than the $15,000, great. $15,000 is just usually what's expected on the scope of what Red Lodge will have. So that investment grade audit, the energy service provider has to tell us that they don't think that the city would save any money by going forward with any of the energy saving projects. And so if we can't, then we won't move forward with an energy performance contract, which is the actions to reduce our gas emissions.
But we have the option of moving forward with the recommendations they make. We're not obligated and committing to that at this time.
Nope. That's why I didn't really mention the energy performance contract at this time. It's just for the step of the investment grade audit, and then from that audit, we can decide if we want to move forward with an energy performance contract with actually installing solar panels and all of those things.
So perhaps in number 2, we could add just some additional language to eliminate ambiguity that says the city agrees to select an energy service provider to perform the audit. Just add that to perform the audit so we know that's what we're committing to. I would be more comfortable with.
Okay, great.
No further questions from me, Mayor.
Thank you. Teresa?
Well, I think it becomes a little redundant to add it in the second point when you've already said in the third point that the purpose is for the investment grade audit. That's just me.
I agree.
Yeah, we could just get rid of the second one. It just sounded like we were committing to something else. I guess my clarification, I just want to be very clear that that's all we're agreeing to at this point is an audit. We're not saying no matter what the recommendations are, we're for sure going to move forward with them. We'll evaluate them at that time.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Good discussion. Comments from the public? Comments from the public? We'll move on down to public comment. As you know, time limit is 3 minutes. Please state your name and address of your residence. And we'll start with public comment.
Yeah, I have a Terry Durbin.
Terry, you want to step up to the podium?
I just have a request for maybe the next city council meeting that we get an update on the Red Lodge City website. I'd be curious to hear what the timeline is, and also a description of some of the enhancements and new features that are going to be added.
Okay. Thank you. Rich?
Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to address you guys tonight. Last month, the city council voted 3-2. Council Lyman was out of town to table ordinance 954, repealing and replacing ordinance 387 regarding the police committee powers and duties. The city attorney spoke in favor, citing her research and antiquated ordinance and her impression that Missoula was considering making changes to their police committee, limiting its power and usefulness. The council members wanted to take time individually to research the points brought up by the city attorney before they felt comfortable rendering a final decision on the ordinance. This led to a phone call my wife received from Chief Wells, who I'm sorry is not here because I'd like to talk to him about this, which was the final straw towards her resignation from the council. First and foremost, the chief approaching a council member outside of appropriate channels was inexcusable and wrong. This is covered by MCA Code 45-7-102. I've also been brought to my attention that he had her on speakerphone and there was other people present in the room that did not identify themselves or acknowledge that they were part of the conversation. And I would like to know who was in that room.
It was not on speakerphone.
It was on speakerphone, sir.
No, it wasn't. Go ahead.
I've heard from two people it was on speakerphone. But this brings me to a bigger issue in our community, the lack of diplomacy and compromise. I've spent a good deal of time a few weeks ago talking to Chief Wells and Kristen Cogswell separately about the police committee and its place in our community. After talking with both, I felt there's a compromise we can reach which solves a few issues for our citizens. I want to preface this by saying that I fully support our officers. I've met most of them and have found them to be outstanding men who do a great job in our community. If I did have a suggestion for them, it would be that they be more active in our community, nothing to lessen tension more than people putting a human face to our officers. I'm going to skip my proposal. You all have it in writing. I feel that this ordinance was the perfect opportunity for our city government to be proactive regarding a major point of tension within our community. Chief Wells was not open to my suggestion at all, saying that the answer was simply him, an appointed officer, or the mayor reviewing complaints and deciding the proper course of action. How does this promote transparency and trust with our citizens? This leads me to the whole diplomacy compromise issue. I think this is a serious problem in our community right now. Instead of even trying to work together to accomplish things, we've been reduced to groups, including city employees, beating each other in submission, accomplishing nothing. In the end, I'm asking for more public discussion regarding the police committee and its purpose. I feel that our city council, our citizens, need to be adequately informed using documentation instead of just the city attorney and chief of police asking us to take them at their word. I also think that Chief Wells and Rebecca Narmore need to recognize that Red Lodge being proactive and setting an example for other law enforcement agencies is a good thing. We can set an example for other communities, creating a system where citizens trust our officers and know that they are adequately trained to handle a multitude of scenarios.
Thank you, Rich.
Sir.
Any other public comments? Public comments? Any other public comment? We will close the meeting.
Comment.
Who is it?
This is Stephanie Naftel, 1101 South Adams.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'd also like to comment on the kind of manipulative, dishonest nature of some of Chief Wells' dealings lately, which is just very simply, there was an incident last 2 Saturdays ago where someone took a run at some people in a crosswalk who were marching. And he apparently is telling people that those people should stay on the sidewalk. And I guess they're not allowed to cross the road. And so they should stay on the sidewalk, and that person didn't take a run at them, endangering their lives, but just revved his engine. Another person just told me that same occupant of that truck coal rolled her because she was wearing a mask trying to cross the street. So I think it's time that Chief Wells actually deal with this person who, I think if it were anyone else, probably would have already received a ticket for reckless driving and something to do with endangering pedestrians in a crosswalk. So I'd really like you, Mayor, to take the lead on this and make sure that there's some consequences and some follow-up to what happened. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Diane.
Diane Dimich, 217 North Platte. I just want to ask both the mayor and the council to please look into Jamie Caparelli's resignation. Having been the target of investigations before council and while on council, it's only fair to the community that this get resolved and figure out what's going on. I know that being on council is hard. It's hard work, but then having your name smeared makes it that much worse. So I beg you, have an investigation. That's what you did to me, Bill. Violation of MCA has happened. It should at least be investigated, and not by you, but by an independent investigator, not a friend of Chief Wells. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Any more public comment? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn, I guess.
So moved.
Okay. Second. Thanks.